There are so many different ways to prepare an egg, and it can be hard to choose, which is why I'm going to show you every different way to cook an egg. Before I touch any eggs, I'm gonna let you in on a little secret. I don't really like eggs. We're gonna do this anyway. We're starting off simple with boiled eggs. I'll do soft, then medium, then hard. And what makes this very simple is that they all cook in the same way, just with different timings. As I drop them in, notice that I'm being super careful. I'm not throwing the eggs in like a basketball. I'm slowly lowering them down and laying them right on the bottom of my pot. And then immediately we wanna start our timer. Since the fully hard-boiled egg is gonna take 10 minutes, I'll set the timer to 10, but the very first eggs we'll pull are those soft-boiled eggs at 5 minutes. While our eggs are cooking, we need to prep an ice bath. The reason we need an ice bath is to quickly stop the cooking process, because when anything comes off the heat, it's going to continue cooking, and eggs are so sensitive and delicate that we need to shock them right away with this cold bath. Our timer says they've been going for almost exactly 5 minutes, which means I can go ahead and pull the first 2 of our eggs. These should be perfectly soft-boiled. Now, if you want a medium-boiled egg, those are going to take 7 minutes. So we'll wait a bit more for those to finish up. Exactly 7 minutes, so these can come out, which means our medium-boiled eggs are done. At this point here, we don't want these to cook much more, so that cold water is going to do the opposite of what our boiling water was doing. And when our timer goes off, those hard-boiled eggs should be done as well. Once we've waited a couple minutes for our eggs to cool down, I'm going to show you what all of these different eggs should look like on the inside. Here we have our soft-boiled eggs, then our medium, and then our hard. First, for our soft-boiled eggs. The white should be set, but that yolk inside should be nice and runny. These ones are much more delicate, so to open this one, I'll crack all the way around the egg and then take off his little hat. And if I scoop inside, you should see this beautiful runny yolk with that egg white set all throughout. What's really fun with an egg like this is you can kind of mix it up in its own shell. And if you finish it with just a touch of salt and a little fresh cracked pepper, you've got this beautiful, almost fluffy, frothy, yolky bite. For medium-boiled eggs, the outside's going to be set, but the inside's going to be that nice jammy yolk that you see all over social media. One thing I love is that everybody has a different method of cracking open their eggs. I like to get one big piece off all at once. Now, if we slice in, you should see that we have this beautiful, squishy, jammy yolk in the middle, and a nice, soft, squishy white on the outside. And this, for me, is one of my favorite ways to cook and eat an egg. I'm going to open our second one and see if it's any better. There's something so satisfying about cooking the perfect medium-boiled egg. A hard-boiled egg needs no introduction. These are probably the easiest of the 3 to cook. If you've boiled it for longer than that 10-minute mark, the full egg should be firm and set. When I cut this one open, we should have a fully set yolk, and the white will be firmer. I'd describe it even as a touch rubbery. Ooh, look at that yolk. Moving on, I'm going to show you the simple art of poaching an egg. The first step is to your pot of boiling water, add just a splash of vinegar. What the vinegar does is helps your egg keep a nice shape while it cooks. I'll start by cracking an egg into a fine mesh strainer, and as you can see, when I roll it around, we'll lose a little bit of that extra egg white. This here is an optional step, but it will give you cleaner poached eggs. The next step is to create a little vortex in your pot of boiling water. Once you get a nice little vortex going, quickly and carefully drop your egg into the center and let it swirl around. What that vortex is doing is spinning and keeping the egg right in the center, which, working together with the vinegar, is going to hold everything together to get us a nice, clean poached egg. After about 2 to 3 minutes, you can start thinking about pulling out your poached egg. My favorite way to check if it's done is to just poke where that yolk is, and if it's nice and soft and squishy, and the white looks like it's firm enough, then it's done. The last little step some people do is trim off those extra little bits to make it look a little bit cleaner, and then you have yourself a beautiful poached egg. My favorite way to enjoy poached eggs is Eggs Benedict. I've been making this ever since I was a kid. I think it is one of the best breakfast foods out there. Oh my gosh, it looks so good. I'll finish these off with a touch of smoked paprika, and then, because it's my favorite herb, just a few little bits of fresh dill. The moment I know you've all been waiting for. Doesn't matter who you are, you can't not love that. Don't look at me like I'm crazy, but this is how I eat my Eggs Benedict. I basically don't want to see anything except for hollandaise sauce. Now it's ready to eat. One of the most classic ways to cook eggs at home is also over easy, over medium, or over hard. When a lot of people wake up in the morning and think to make some eggs, they think of making them like that. I'm going to start off with over easy, and the first step is just a nice bit of butter. I think that butter, as opposed to oil, gives better flavor to a fried egg. I'll start by cracking the egg super close to the base of the pan. Then, because over easy cooks very fast, I'll quickly hit it with a touch of salt and a bit of fresh cracked pepper, and once that egg white on the bottom has set, quickly go under it with your spatula and give it a nice gentle flip. After just a few quick moments on that other side, our egg is done. For over medium, it's the same exact thing as over easy, but we're gonna leave it just a few moments longer. Egg goes in, then we'll hit it with a nice pinch of salt, fresh cracked pepper, and once that's cooked for about a minute to a minute and a half on one side, shimmy your spatula right under it and give it a nice, careful flip. The goal with our over medium egg is to have the inside of the yolk have just that right amount of gooiness, while the outside of the yolk is more firmly set. Once the yolk starts to give just a bit of resistance, we can go ahead and take it off the heat. Now finally, for over hard, I'll crack my egg right into the center of my pan. As always, remember to hit it with just a nice pinch of salt, then the same with the pepper. And after you've cooked it for about 2 to 3 minutes on one side over medium heat, go ahead and give it a confident flip. If you don't want a broken yolk on your egg, it's important to just leave it for a few moments after you've flipped it over. Then, once we know that yolk has set, it's okay to reposition it. Once you've cooked it for another 2 to 3 minutes on that side, you can go ahead and take it off the heat. Over easy, over medium, and over hard. When I cut through the over easy, you should see that there's a perfect yolk right in the center. Look at all that yolkiness. For the over medium, when I cut in, there should be just a touch of yolk in the center if I press down. And if you've timed it properly, the yolk should look something like this. A little bit firm to the touch on the outsides, but still with a bit of yolk. And finally, over hard. If you like your eggs over hard, I don't know what to tell you. It's sort of like liking a well-done steak. An egg shouldn't sound like that. I'm all for those nice crispy edges that you get when you cook it for a bit longer, but why would anybody want to cook an egg like that? Normally I would never do this. The only good part is the crust. This is not right. This is not how you should cook an egg. Sunny side up eggs are, I think, a really fun way to cook eggs. We'll start our pan over medium heat and add in just a touch of butter, but then in this pan, I'm gonna add a bit more butter because I like my sunny side up eggs with some brown butter. You could try to do it all in the same pan, but that timing is a little bit tricky. Now, into the center of my pan, I'll crack my egg, then I'll turn down the heat a bit lower and add on a lid. You can see immediately that lid fogging up just a little bit, which will help to sort of steam the top of the whites. After literally 30 to 45 seconds, you'll see that all the whites on the outside of our egg should be fully set, and that top yolk in the middle is perfect. Over here, I'm just gonna give my brown butter a little shake, and while that finishes up, I'll bring my egg over to my plate. We'll add a little bit of chili oil or chili crisp. That is art. I should auction this egg. And once my butter is nice and brown, I'll add in some of that brown butter foam, being careful not to touch the yolk. And that's it. You could either say it looks like a mess or you could say it looks perfect, but that is my favorite way to eat a sunny side up egg. Delicious. It tastes really good, but I think it looks even better than it tastes. Maybe I do like eggs. I've got a very simple method for scrambled eggs. I'm gonna make mine with 3 eggs, and we start by simply cracking all 3 eggs into a cold non-stick pan. It's very important that you make sure the pan is non-stick. Next, before doing anything else, grab a few bits of butter, then cut it up into a few small cubes and add this to your pan. We'll turn the heat to medium-low and then begin stirring. You may have seen Gordon Ramsay do a method for eggs like this before. The way it all happens from here is stirring 30 seconds on the heat, then 30 seconds off, but still keeping that flame on so we have it ready when we need to go back. And it basically prevents overcooking so your scrambled eggs don't become rubbery. As you stir, keep a timer in your head. 30 seconds on, then 30 seconds off. Always making sure to scrape every part of the pan at any given moment to make sure no egg sits in one place for too long. What we're basically doing right now is breaking apart all of those egg curds to give us a very silky smooth final product. I know this might look like overkill, but in reality, it only really takes a couple minutes, and after trying a lot of different types of scrambled eggs, this one is by far my favorite. You can see now that the eggs are starting to clump up just a bit. So at this point, we'll go back and forth a few more times, but have to be ready to season. To season our eggs, I'll go in with a touch of salt. The reason we don't add it earlier is because it can mess with the structure of the eggs. Just a touch of fresh cracked pepper, and my secret ingredient, chicken bouillon powder. This is a trick from my grandfather who didn't cook much, but got me to fall in love with good scrambled eggs. It adds this incredible umami creaminess, and I still use the exact brand that he always used. Once we've added those seasonings, back onto the heat where we'll stir it up just a little bit more, and this is the point where we can really let those eggs start to set. I like to serve my scrambled eggs when they're still just a bit glossy, because remember, these are still gonna cook as they sit on the plate. If you have creme fraiche and you wanna add a bit of extra creaminess at the end, fold just a touch of creme fraiche into your eggs with that seasoning, but otherwise, just to keep them nice and fancy, I like to top them off with just a few chives. And those are my grandpa's scrambled eggs. Some would say the most difficult type of egg to prepare is the classic French omelette. If you follow a few simple steps, it's really not as bad as it looks. If you're trying to make one omelet, 3 eggs into a bowl. Notice how I'm whisking with a fork instead of a regular whisk, because a whisk would give us too many air bubbles. Then we'll turn our burner to medium-low heat. We want this process to be nice and slow. And then add in 1 or 2 small squares of butter. And in goes our egg, all at once. Working quickly, similar to making those scrambled eggs, we want to start scraping the sides of our pan to make sure that no bits of egg sit in the same place for too long. The key here is to cook all of the eggs slowly and evenly. And if you need to move your pan off the heat once in a while to make that happen, then do that. Notice how I'm constantly scraping right up against the sides of the pan to keep nice clean edges on my omelet. Back on the heat, keep stirring constantly. Try to think of it like you want to cook every little bit of egg in here the exact same amount of time. And as it gets later in the process, what I'm looking for now is how jiggly the egg is on top. Making a perfect French omelet takes a lot of patience. Part of you is just going to want to turn up the heat and just finish the egg, but it's important that you wait and take it slow. Now that there's barely any jiggle on the top of the egg here, I'm going to move the pan around on the flame to get the pan right above those areas that have the most jiggle to try to fully set that egg. And now is your time to add in any toppings or perhaps just a bit of seasoning to finish up your omelet. If we can fix that last little bit of jiggle on the top here, we are ready to roll. Turn off the heat, get your plate, and then ever so carefully with your spatula, begin to fold that egg up and over itself, and eventually onto your plate. Then to finish it off, keep it simple. Just a few chives sprinkled carefully over the top, and your French omelet is complete.